Hello all, Tammy here. This is a narrated PowerPoint for our January 19th professional development that you will be facilitating to your teachers. Please make sure you have the lesson plan in front of you and a pencil in case you have further questions. And if you do have further questions, we will have a webinar set up next Tuesday the 12th from 8:30 to 11:30 and from 1 to 3. A link will be sent to you in an email that morning that will take you to a Blackboard Collaborate session where you can ask your questions. These are the things that you will need for your January 19th professional development. So if you see here, this is a snippet of the DC network and where all of the materials are housed. The first three things are what we provided you printed. Now it's your choice if you want to print them for your teachers or not. I suggest it because it's nice that they can actually look at a hard copy and they're going to be reviewing them and finding information in them and things like that. So it might be a good idea to print them. The next one is, will be a Google link that's later in the PowerPoint that talks about the SAT. And then you have the actual PowerPoint that you're going to use. The DC homework is what you will need to print out ahead of time and give to your teachers so they come prepared for January 19th. Here's the lesson plan. And these are the question bank, the SAT question bank for the high school and middle school that will be used towards the end of the professional development. And then this is the first activity, partner activity, which actually is a tiny URL, but you can print it out or you can send it to them electronically. So we're going to get started with the PowerPoint presentation. And like I said, make sure you have your lesson plan in front of you. So the first thing you're going to have them do is you're going to have them get their homework out, and you're going to have them discuss the homework amongst themselves in groups and talk about the solution and answer the questions that are on the first page and what course would this content be taught, what other course content was needed, what are the ramifications of the problem having prior course learning embedded within it. Once you get through that, you will display that this question is a Type 2, Subclaim C, and HSC 18-2 question, but don't give them any explanation. This information will come later on in the presentation. Next, we share with them our master claim, which is mathematics is a complete coherent story as supported by PARCC and SAT. We have a master claim just like PARCC has a master claim. And you want them to keep this question in mind as they go through the presentation of how do they know what level of rigor to teach the content to make sure their students are prepared to be college and career ready. So the first big activity is the partner activity, and here's the tiny URL. And once you have your teachers go to the tiny URL, that will provide them the directions that they need. You want them to work in partners because one partner is going to do an end of the year question and the other partner is going to do a PBA question, which remember there is only one PARCC assessment at the end of the year this year, so EOY and PBA questions will be in that one assessment at the end of the school year. Once they complete their problem and their solution, they're going to have a discussion about how they solved it. And the next thing they're going to do is they're going to use their Common Core app on their device, which is if you just hit the Windows button on the device, they should be able to find the Common Core app to see if they can find the standard that matches their released item. And then you're going to ask them which item or what standard it is, take a poll, and we'll go from there. So now they're going to have a chance to take a look at the answer key for the release item that they completed. So there's the two tiny URLs. So if they did the PBA, they're going to take the first tiny URL. If they did the EOY question, they're going to use the second tiny URL. And they're going to, from that, they're going to see what they know from the answer key, and then what do they need to know about the information on the answer key. So they might know some stuff, and they might need to learn some stuff from the answer key. When you display this PowerPoint slide during the presentation, they're going to see that one person They thought they probably had the same standard, but they're going to realize that the end of year was REI 4A1, whereas the PBA was HSC C16-2, and they're going to question, well, why are they different? This is where the PARCC evidence statement table for Algebra 1 should be distributed to your teachers or either brought up electronically, because they're going to use this document to understand why those two evidence keys were different in their partner activity. So give them a few minutes to peruse the evidence statement tables, and you're going to ask them to locate REI 4A1 and understand what they learned about that evidence key. Now, make sure that when you discuss the evidence table that you include the color of the page, the evidence statement, the clarification, the mathematical practice, and codes for calculator use. You may also want to ask information that was found pertaining to HSC 16-2. So it's very important that they really take a good amount of time to review this evidence statement table, because this provides a lot of information. Once you finish reviewing the evidence statement tables and talking about all that important information, you're now going to provide some very important information on PARCC for slides 12, 13, and 14. As you can see, slide 12 is about the PARCC claim structure, and at the bottom of the slides for these, there are talking points. So there's information in there that you want to share with your teachers. So slide 12 is about the master claim for PARCC. Slide 13 discusses the subclaims A through D, which they should have also identified in the evidence statement table. And then slide 14 talks about the test types, the 3 test types that are going to be on the PARCC assessment at the end of the school year. Again, there are talking points. Slides 15, 16, and 17 review that geometry problem that they had for homework, and there's several questions on the lesson plan that you should follow when you review slides 15, 16, and 17. What does type 2 tell you about this problem? What does subclaim C tell you about this problem? And the evidence table codes, this HSC 18-2, what does that code of C mean? So during these 3 slides, you want to ask those questions. So there's slide 15. Slide 16 talks about the standards for mathematical practice and the fact that this geometry problem was a type 2 and that it was subclaim C. And then more information about subclaim C, and what's very important is this whole idea that they need to have algebra in order to solve and come up with the answer for this geometry problem. So now you're going to give your teachers and yourself a little time to have a little discussion about the information that they have learned so far in this professional development. Now, once you've finished having that conversation about the new information, you're going to present your teachers with a mock mathematics student score report, either digitally or if you've made copies of them, you can give them one, a hard copy to them. Allow them a few minutes to look over the information of what's on the score report. Now, they may have seen some by now with their students, depending on what grade level you teach, or they may not have seen this at all. So now you're going to do an answer garden, or you can just ask your teachers how they are feeling to take the temperature in the room. Think of all the information that has just been given to you and ask them, what are they feeling? Are they happy, thoughtful, hopeful? And just take a quick poll of your teachers. So now you want to ask this question, this rhetorical question: how do you as a teacher know how to change your instructional practice to match the levels on the student score report? If your teachers noticed there were levels of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, what does that mean in the classroom? So that's the next part of this presentation about the performance level descriptors and what it means in your classroom as far as what you're teaching your students. So as they saw, like I said, there was a 1 through 5, 1 being minimal command and 5 being distinguished command. Some of you may also have students in Baltimore County. You may have received your score report, especially if they were in elementary school, so you get an idea of what these levels mean. So now this is the performance levels descriptors for Algebra 1. And you'll see that we have the evidence statement keys, and then we have the level 5, level 4, level 3, and level 2. What's missing is level 1. Okay, they do not provide any information about level 1, which is a very minimal command. So at this time, you would distribute the performance level descriptors for Algebra 1, and you ask our teachers to locate and read the REI 4A1 and the HSC 16.2, which are the level descriptors for their partner activity that they did in the beginning of the presentation, and ask them what do they notice and what do they wonder. So the meaning of this performance level descriptor activity was for your teachers to understand that they cannot always teach in a level 2 or level 3. They need to bump it up and see where they need to, what they need to teach and how they need to teach to have their students get a 4 or a 5 with those specific evidence statement keys. So their responsibility as a teacher, what should I expect to see in your classroom based on these PLDs, and how will these descriptors inform your planning and your instruction? So these are 2 questions that you want to have a discussion with your teachers to gauge what they're thinking. So the last part of the first part when we're talking about PARCC with this professional development is just a quick little summary quiz on lessons learned from the PARCC assessment. So you'll go through each question and you will ask the teachers whether they're true or false. So there's question 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the answers are on the lesson plan. So that ends the first part on PARCC. Make sure you jotted down some questions. That way you can ask them in the webinar if you need to next week. Otherwise, the SAT part will start in just a few seconds. And up until now, you've probably maybe used about 60 minutes to go over the first part of this professional development. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the SAT portion of the professional development. So the overarching question is, how does what we've discussed about PARCC relate to the redesigned SAT? So the first thing you're going to have your teachers do is complete this problem, either independently, with their group, together, whatever you see fit. Give them a few minutes. If you're in middle school, they may not be able to complete it, but that's okay. It's about what leads up to it. Once they have completed the problem, the next slide, if this were a PARCC question, what type would it be, what subclaim, and what prior knowledge needed? So have a discussion with your group, and keep in mind that depending on what course they teach or what information they know, really makes all of these answers could be different. There's not necessarily one type or one subclaim. So it's really interesting using this question and relating it to PARCC. I'm sorry, using this question, yes, and relating it to PARCC. Now your teachers will dig into the redesigned SAT. So take a minute to display this slide to your teachers and ask them what is new, what is similar or different compared to the old SAT and PARCC. So it's interesting that you will see that there's a calculator portion, there's a no calculator portion, multiple choice questions, and student response items. In order for your teachers to dig into the redesigned SAT, they're either going to need to use this Googled link or have digital access from the H drive for the SAT document. You will need to pull up that SAT document as they have it on their device as well. And you're going to ask them to look at page 131. They're going to read the overall claim, then focus their attention on content domains page 131 to 132, and you're going to ask, what do you think are the topics under each content area? Allow them a chance to figure out what the topics would be. And then on page 133, you're going to have them read the first sentence, and then you're going to ask them this question: how were the SMPs represented in your classroom last week during a lesson? So think about what they have done in the past, last week, in one of their math lessons, and where the Standards for Mathematical Practices, how they were represented in that class. Once they followed along with you, looking at the information in that SAT document, this is the first SAT activity for the group. So on page 138, they're going to look at the SAT problem solving and data analysis domain. Under that domain, you want them to identify the grade level for each content dimension application, where it is taught. This last activity for SAT has the teachers really looking at questions from SAT banks and fitting them to their needs. So if they're a middle school teacher, they're going to ask what course will build a foundation for those questions. And for the high school, they're going to actually categorize those questions into their courses. So this is where those two documents that I indicated in the very beginning of this presentation that they will need to have printed so they can do this extension work. It is an extension work. There's 30 minutes allocated for this. I highly suggest it if you have time. It'll be very eye-opening for your teachers. That pretty much concludes the activities that you will facilitate on January 19th. And this summary has the teachers reviewing the BCPS Mathematics Master Claim, that it is a complete, coherent story as supported by PARCC and SAT. And you want to ask them, what does that master claim mean to them? And what are they thinking about how they might need to change the way they plan and implement learning opportunities for students? This last slide in the PowerPoint presentation provides the resources that we have used to create this professional development for you and your teachers. The very first resource, PARCC.org, is the website that we use to obtain the release items and all the information that went with the release items. We suggest that you take your teachers to this website and have them use the code so that they can register to obtain some more release items if they would like to. At this time, this concludes the presentation review of the January 19th professional development that you will facilitate with your teachers. I hope it was helpful. If you have further questions, don't forget the webinar is next Tuesday, January 12th from 8:30 to 11:30 and 1 to 3, and a link will be sent to you that morning. Thank you all.